It is Friday, August 10th. Let's talk PlayStation. Okay, we're going to get right into this news story because, quite honestly, I think this is my favorite PS4 that Sony's ever done to date. But just recently, Sony announced that they have sold 500 million PlayStation consoles worldwide. So that's every PlayStation console, dating back to 1994 with the original PlayStation in Japan. 500 million, well, more specifically, that's 524 million, but they're saying 500 million for this very special edition PlayStation 4 Pro that Sony's releasing very soon. It is a dark blue translucent finish. You can actually also see that it's got some accenting, kind of like bronze colored, like PlayStation logo, and then it's actually, each system is individually numbered. That's that little piece on that bottom tier of the PS4's three-tiered design. So out of 50,000 units, which is what they're going to be making, 50,000 available consoles worldwide, each one will be individually numbered. The controller, again, that same finish, and it looks so good, so glossy, and just the right amount to see into the innards of the DualShock 4. Also sports a camera. The camera is not translucent, but still has a dark color to match the overall theme of the console. Also comes with a vertical stand, the mono headset. It'll be available for $500, so a little bit more of a premium PS4 Pro. But it's still very cool. It's kind of their thank you PS4 Pro, which is weird because they're still selling it to you, but yeah, this thing looks beautiful. I love this thing so much. It looks great. Now, if you're not interested in going all in on this system, the very good news is that in September, they'll be launching the DualShock 4 and the gold wireless headphones separately for you to purchase. So if you want to just get the controller or something, you can do that, which is probably the route I'm going to go because I have no money right now, and they just had to release this beautiful, magnificent PlayStation 4, but the other interesting tidbit is that Sony also mentioned that there are specific serial numbers that are extra special. We don't know what that means, so something might be a little extra stored in the box, or maybe the console might be finished a little bit differently. But the specific numbers that you want to look out for if you perhaps order one of these is 9995. That's the original PlayStation's launch date, in the US, mind you. The other one is 1115. That's the PS4's launch date. And then 1013. That was PlayStation VR's launch date. So those three specific ones, if you do order this, you'll probably notice right away what's probably different about it or whatever. We don't know what Sony's going to do, but they're making it seem quite obvious that those specific units, and we don't even, maybe there'll be multiple of those units, but still that sounds like that wouldn't make sense. So there's 3 special golden tickets out there where you might get something extra cool, and I hope we find out what they are, because out of 50,000 consoles being sold, I mean, you're bound to like not find out what one is because somebody like just doesn't post on the internet that they got it or whatever, you know. But at the very least, it's 50,000 units. That's way more than the 20th anniversary edition PS4, which they had made 12,000 of those. It's funny that we're talking about rarity because I just did that Tuesday video about rare and cool PS4s, which you should check out. There's a lot of interesting, super rare PS4s that you probably don't know about. But 50,000 is kind of a healthy number. I would still be there right on August 24th to try and order one of these things. It will sell out immediately, easily still, even though it's still more widely available, it's going to go quick. But at least you've got options after the fact. There's probably going to be a good portion of these popping back up on eBay. Yeah, it will be more than what was originally paid for them, but hey, at least you've got options if you want to pursue these things. Other than that, let's move on to Horizon Zero Dawn and the fact that it was recently revealed on VG Charts, and VG Charts is a little iffy sometimes with their numbers, but they can't be too far off with this, and they're usually more accurate as time goes on with their sales numbers, but they're claiming that right now Horizon Zero Dawn sold 5 million copies via retail. So we had learned a few months ago that Horizon was at 7 million copies sold worldwide, and that was including retail and digital. But no, we know for sure right now that 5 million copies, and you got to figure maybe they're at 8-9 million copies of Horizon, who knows for sure. But at least 5 million are physical games sold at retailers, brick and mortar stores. That's interesting because, well, it's just a good figure to understand the fact that, well, consumers still want physical. They still want to buy discs. They still want to own their media. And even when you consider digital sales, how we always talk about this whole streaming thing, even digital sales is still locally storing the game onto your console so that you have full, complete control over playing it offline if you so choose to do so. So it always that's what I'm saying, man. It's going to get so interesting when we start seeing these streaming services pop up and big publishers realize that they're maybe not too happy with the amount of subscribers or people that are using their services, because time and time again we just see them either fail, or current services like PlayStation Now, Sony won't even tell us how many subscribers there are because they're probably embarrassed that there's not that many. Moving on to Insomniac Games. Insomniac, of course, is dealing with all the Spider-Man stuff going around, but recently their community director, James Stevenson, had responded to a question about if the company would do Resistance again. So this crops up every few years with Insomniac, if they will do another Resistance. This answer is still typically not that great, but basically James Stevenson has said that that's kind of a long shot. And he more or less elaborated by saying that as of right now, there are no plans for doing a Resistance game in the future. He also reiterated by saying that if Sony were to do another Resistance, which we all know this, but Sony owns the Resistance IP, so they could easily make another Resistance game if they wanted to pursue that. Insomniac doesn't have to be the developer. Sony can just field it out to another developer if they choose to do so. But as it stands right now, Insomniac's not planning to do it, and more than likely Sony is not in any way thinking about Resistance or wanting to revive Resistance in some way. The last major update we got about this before this comment, now a few times Insomniac CEO Ted Price had mentioned, immediately he said, no, we're not doing another Resistance, and that game was over. And then a few months or a few years after that, he had said, I take that back, never say never. I think he was a little regretful about that statement, so that was kind of like the last major thing we heard. And then Ted Price had come out again and said, we felt like 3 really closed it well, so even though they were at some point considering Resistance 4, they just didn't feel like it would be the right time to do it. And it seems like there's still no huge update. Look, I'm a Resistance fan. I love Resistance. I thought it was a great game. I think it's just one of those IP where if it ever comes back, it's going to be a long ways out. This IP will probably remain dormant for a good amount of time, if not for the unforeseeable future. So earlier this week, Jeff Keighley tweeted something very interesting, and it's a picture of Hideo Kojima pointing at a TV that says the Game Awards, and it says, "Presenting plans with my friend." We all know that Jeff Keighley and Hideo Kojima are like, they're good buddies, but this may probably mean that we'll see Death Stranding at the Game Awards, because that's not entirely unheard of. And it's only worth noting because whenever we see Death Stranding, it's a basic, amalgamation of just things we don't understand, and then we're kind of left wanting more, and we're not really sure why we're wanting more, whether it's the allure of a Hideo Kojima game, or the fact that we don't know what the hell's going on, or the fact that we want to know what the actual gameplay looks like. And sure, we've seen gameplay of Norman Reedus walking mysteriously into the distance, holding a box on his back, and then weird semi-sentient tentacle invisible creatures. So it's weird, right? It's a weird fucking game, and we want to know more about it. So maybe the Game Awards will tell us a little bit more about it, and maybe we'll have even more questions, as I'm sure we probably will whenever we see it again in some capacity, and that may very well be the Game Awards. So for this next news story, I included this because it's a good reflection from a news story we had not that long ago, maybe 5-6 months ago, but it was something that EA had said, and now Capcom is saying it as well. Well, anyway, earlier this week, Capcom COO Stuart Turner had mentioned how the company is focusing more on if a game is received critically well rather than its sales. Now, of course, they have shareholders to appease, which is pretty much what Stuart said, but he basically said that they would prefer to have a game that got a 9 and didn't sell as much as a game that got a 6 and sold much more. They had also mentioned how they're not as worried about day one sales and focusing more on post-release content and things like that nature. Now, this is pretty much what EA said not that long ago, and it's like the kind of news story where YouTubers and media sites just ate that shit up, where EA said, we're focusing on the quality of our titles, not the quantity or how much we can sell to you. And that's EA, and of course EA got a bunch of shit thrown at them for that. And at the end of the day, I basically said regarding that news story, listen, these are people in the games business. People that work at EA are in the games industry. They are gamers. They inherently know that a game has to be good. It has to be quality. It has to be a great product. So why would they not want to? Basically, I was saying, why would you not want the product to be good? Of course, they are a business. Of course, they want to make money. But the fact of the matter is you can't put out terrible games, because at some point over the long term, whether people buy the game initially or not, it damages the company long term, and those are people that genuinely care about the video game business, and they genuinely enjoy their jobs and want to release good video games. And Capcom is pretty much saying the same thing. And I think that the breaking point is what Capcom had mentioned, how they're not worried about day one sales. That's not just Capcom, that's most companies nowadays. Of course, a grand bulk of sales is always going to be day one, but it's not like 20 years ago with like PlayStation 1, N64, PlayStation going to the PlayStation 2, the Xbox, the GameCube. I mean, those generations weren't about post-release content because there was no post-release content. So you'd have a game come out, and if it didn't do good in that first month, it was pretty much going to be lost into the vast sea of nothingness of whatever that library was for that particular platform. That was very important back in the day, and it's not like that so much now. If you can even see that Grand Theft Auto 5 is still selling phenomenally well because it has great post-release content, and it's an intriguing, enticing, compelling game that people want to play over and over and over again. And so that's why companies are unfortunately going the subscription route, microtransaction route, and even, you know, regular long-form content that they could release and sell to you. They know that, then there's also the free content too. Let's not forget that sometimes there is a lot of good free post content as well. Depends on the publisher, depends on the developer, depends on how cool they want to be with their product. But it's a different time, it's a different landscape, and they do understand that they have to have a good game at the forefront of that. They can't release a buzz game or a mediocre game at best and hope that people will just buy it, because that's not the case. Now, for our final news story, this is a good segue into an EA thing. It's cool because like that last news story, I'm basically telling you, well, these guys, trust me, these guys care about making good video games, but they are still businesses, and that's what this is about. So it was also recently reported this past week that EA is forming a new team internally called the Moral Compass, and what this team is going to do is analyze multiple games and work with multiple developers under EA's giant publishing label to understand and analyze the possibility of including and properly implementing microtransactional content. They're called the Moral Compass. EA, of course, is still pursuing microtransactions, as most companies are. I think the big thing here is that the team's called Moral Compass for a reason. They want to go about this in the best way possible, and I'm assuming that means they want to do it in a way that's not going to piss off a multitude of people. So this sounds like, again, a terrible news story that I'm sure a lot of people are running away with this story to try and make EA look like absolute crap. And who knows? For all we know, this could very well have a very insidious negative impact on the future of EA's games. But I would hope that EA has learned their lesson. I would hope that this team is purpose-built to understand that they need to, if they are going to do these things, which they are going to, they want to go about it in the best way possible, where it doesn't affect gameplay to the extent of giving people that put money into the game a great advantage, not to lock out massive amounts of content, still allow all content in the game to be unlocked for free, granted if the player wants to invest the time to play the game, but don't make that an inordinate amount of time. Make it a lot of cosmetic stuff that you would want to put up for sale, because that's the thing too, is that whether you like all those transactional things or not, recent studies have shown most people don't have a problem with it as long as it doesn't impede on the fact of them unlocking content themselves naturally, or if it's just cosmetic content. Most people, as it appears to be, don't have a problem with that. And of course, people that are against those things are going to be very vocal. That's the thing about it, is that when something comes out and it sucks, people are going to be super vocal about it, and the people that are enjoying it are just going to silently enjoy it. They're not going to beat the drum of how much fun they're having with it or how awesome it is. Most people on Amazon that buy a product, they enjoy it and then they never talk about it ever again. The ones that have a problem, they go there and give it a 1-star review. That's just kind of how things work. But going back to the Moral Compass, EA did say that it was going to be tested early in development with games, and it would be tested with gamers, and so you would get some heavy Q&A with real people that would give real feedback to the team and let them know how they feel about it. And a lot of times that QA stuff actually doesn't end up working, because it's so hard to get a grander understanding of a huge audience when you only have a handful of people, like a small focus group. Sometimes it's just hard to have a small focus group give the right path to what millions of people want. But hopefully this is hopefully we don't have to talk about this ever again, where EA's games come out and there isn't another major shitstorm. But knowing the fact that it's EA, we'll probably be here again talking about this 2-3 months from now. Anyway, those are some of the news stories that I wanted to talk about with you guys from this past week. So if you didn't see on Twitter, again at Mystic Ryan on Twitter, follow if you want to, but I had posted that basically we're moving the Let's Plays over to Twitch. So we haven't done Let's Plays in like 7 or 8 months. I know not many of you watch them, which is why I'm moving them over to Twitch, basically, because I know a lot of people, most people that are subscribed to this channel, they like the filmed content, they like Let's Talk PlayStation, they like all the other videos that I'm doing. The recent Vita documentary, everyone liked. I am writing another one. Hopefully it'll be up within a week or two. Definitely not a week. I'll take that back. 2 to 3 weeks, hopefully that'll be up. But that, you know, planned and scripted content and news content will stay on YouTube. If you did ever enjoy my Let's Plays, we will now be live streaming on Twitch. That'll be twitch.tv/mysticrb. So go ahead and follow over there. It'll be very casual. I don't have a set schedule or anything like that, but if you want to watch those again, and you know me, I'm very talkative and I'll interact with the chat like crazy, which I did the first stream we did, which was a few nights ago. Super fun. We played some No Man's Sky, but go follow if you want to catch up on what we'll be doing Let's Play wise. And it'll be great because it'll be live this time. And so, yeah, if you didn't see that Tuesday video, the rarest PS4s out there, the coolest ones. Basically, we go over, again, the rarest systems, but you'll be surprised to see some that are in there. You might think that you're a seasoned PlayStation veteran, but there are some PS4 consoles out there that you probably didn't even realize existed. Anyway, that's pretty much all I got for you. So that concludes this week's episode of Let's Talk PlayStation. I'm Ryan Benecki. Thank you all so much for talking with me, and I will see you guys next Friday.